Hi, I'm Juro, and this is Moreno Morena Presents, a podcast where I interview different, interesting people every week to hopefully shed light on what it means to be a dark skinned Filipino. Today I'm talking to Dr. Sam Mendez, PhD in Developmental Clinical Psychology, Master's in SPED, Assistant Professor in UP Diliman, and host of an online book club. We talk about the psychology of bullying, safeguarding our self esteem, and creating an ideal future. Don't forget to follow Moreno Morena on Instagram and Facebook, and subscribe to Moreno Morena Presents on Spotify, Google Podcasts, or Apple Podcasts. Thanks and enjoy the interview. I'd like to get a background of your experience growing up Morena, or
Okay.
if the project resonates with you at all, or if Ma'am Danny forced you lang to.
No.
Sana naman she didn't.
No naman. Parang I came here with consent.
Yeah, so I'd like to know how the whole Moreno Morena project resonates with you, if you have any experiences growing up that were affected by being dark-skinned, and yeah, the general, that
Okay.
kind of thing.
Sige. I thought that was interesting the first time Danny brought this up. I was like, oh, yeah. And I've always considered myself Morena. Growing up, I loved swimming, and I even tried out for like training during summers. So I'm really dark skinned, and
Yeah.
whenever our families, I'm from Cebu, so beaches are very accessible. So whenever we have time during the weekends or holidays, it's usually the beach. That's our go-to destination, and I wouldn't stop swimming until we have to go home. So I'm really dark skinned growing up. And I was actually thinking I did get teased, but I don't remember being teased a lot by my peers. It was mostly my relatives and my family
Okay.
who
Yeah.
would tease me. So that's strange, but at the same time, when I think about it, it's not so strange at all because I don't know if you noticed, but in the Philippines, we're very fond of teasing children. Like the older members of the family are very fond of teasing children. And for them, it's just playful, na parang binibiro mo lang, gina-joke mo lang. Pero I think what matters is how the kid interprets that or the child interprets that. Because as an adult, you can always say, oh, it was just a joke. It was meant to be funny.
Yeah.
It was a playful banter. But there is also a possibility that a child would be sensitive. And I think I was a sensitive child. Parang I would feel bad. I'd get called names by my uncles. My mom is the only girl in her family. I had 4 uncles. So
Oh,
they
wow.
would tease me. And I'm the eldest apo, or like
Yeah.
yeah, so I was the baby for mga 2 years before my other cousins were born. So yeah, I remember being teased, getting called names like Nog Nog or Uling or Negra, which
Yeah.
is like not
Yeah, it doesn't sit
nice
right.
and politically correct
Currently,
at
especially.
all. Yes, yeah, but you do get where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you've been called names like that too. So yeah, and also in grade school and high school, I went to an all girls Catholic school.
Oh no.
Yeah.
It's implied na.
Yeah, and the like the schema of a beautiful person or a beautiful girl is someone who is Spachino, you know? The Spanish, Chinese, Filipino, na parang you have to be mestiza,
Yeah.
you have to be thin and really white and have clear complexion. So yun, or what we'd call the Pond's girl. So siya yung, you know, the Pond's commercial,
That's the
like
first
the
time I've
Pond's
heard that.
girl. Yeah, it's like that. That's like your goal,
Yeah.
right? Your standard of beauty, the Pond's girl or the Spachino girl. And I wasn't like that. So I grew up really thinking that, oh, I'm not pretty. So I need to be good at other things.
Yeah.
Because you know, like, because I'm not pretty, I need to be good at other things. So that was my
Wow.
experience. And after 4 years, I had a younger sister. So my younger sister was born, and she has fair complexion. So that's
no.
when things started getting very interesting.
Yeah.
So people would say, uy, bakit maputi siya? Tapos yung ate hindi. And I was really
Yeah.
dark at that time. Kasi I was also getting interested in swimming na.
Mm-hmm.
even as a child. So yun, like my titas and my other older cousins, mga second degree cousins ko, they would say, "Oh, like your sister is so pretty, blah blah blah," and then I would
Oh
be sitting
no.
there and like touching my face, and then, well, I'm not white. So parang may mga joke pa na, oh, napulot ka lang sa trash can. You know those.
No.
So it's
That's so
really,
mean.
it really comes from my family. Like
Yeah.
yung hugot ko, it doesn't, I don't remember being bullied by my classmates because of how I looked. It mostly came from my relatives.
Yeah.
So yeah. And so I think as early as 10 years old, I started using papaya soap. I mean, 10 years old.
Yeah.
Papaya soap dries up your skin. But then I was so religious in wearing whitening products and using papaya soap for a very long time. Until I graduated from high school, that was it. Like my feeling was I'm not pretty because I'm not white, so I need to be good at other things.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that was the something good that came out of that experience.
Yeah.
I tried to figure out what I can be good at. I tried sports. Not
No,
good at
not sports.
sports. Not for me. So I tried the arts. I'm not very good with visual, like drawing,
Mm-hmm.
painting. Not so good at that. But I found out that I'm kind of good with words. So I wrote a lot
Oh, okay.
as
Yeah.
a child and as a teenager. So dun ko chinanel yung mga teenage angst and
Yeah.
all these feelings. And then academically, I was just average growing up. So that also led to parang it contributed to the insecurity that
Mm-hmm.
I can't seem to find an area in my life that I was really good at.
Yeah.
So hindi ako maganda, tingin ko dati. And then hindi pa ako super galing sa school, like never akong na-honor, ganon. But I also did not fail.
Yeah.
I was just like an average student. And then when I was in high school, third year high school, that's when I had my first heartbreak.
Oh no. Okay.
Yeah, but something good came out of it. Like something really good came out
Yeah.
of it. So yeah, so I had a crush.
Mm-hmm.
I had a super crush, and then I also had a best friend. She's white,
Yeah.
like super white. And then the crush liked my best friend and not me. So
Yes.
parang, ah.
I've
And
heard
so
that.
like,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So I got heartbroken, and I think my coping was just to study really hard.
Mm-hmm.
And for the first time, I was first in our batch.
Wow. Okay.
Like for third year, like
That's-
during my third year, I was like top one. So I was so shocked. Like,
Wow.
wow. Parang, wait a minute. Okay, so that's when I realized, oh, okay, I can be good at this.
Yeah.
If I continue like doing what I did, which was to be really hardworking. I don't think I'm smart, but I'm extremely hardworking. So and that's what I think I'm good at, like working hard, being diligent.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so that was something good that came out of it, and that's how I kind of coped with everything.
Yeah.
Now, when I went to college, I went to UP, and I remember UP Cebu, and I remember another turning point that happened in my life was taking up history, the Philippine history class. I forget now what the number is, but anyway, yung course code, but it was history, Philippine history, and I think that just changed everything. That made me realize, oh, like brown is beautiful.
Yeah.
This is before pre-colonial Philippines, like, diba?
Mhm.
Before we were taught that yung mestiza yung maganda, yung may halong Chinese or may halong Spanish, yun yung maganda. Like, we were brown.
Yeah.
And I think that made a huge difference because that's when I started embracing my brownness. So I stopped using whitening products, and I chose soaps
Yeah.
that would be more parang mas fit siya sa needs ng skin ko. So parang yon, parang I focused more on on what will make my skin healthy rather than what will make it white. And I think that made a huge difference because it really made me, that class made me embrace my brownness and made me appreciate myself. Tapos parang maganda naman pala ako. Like, hindi naman ako pangit.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not white, but I'm not pangit. I mean, there are a lot of prettier girls, but I'm also not ugly. So parang yun. So it came a little bit late in college ko na appreciate tsaka na accept yung pagiging morena ko.
What was that in that history class did you see that granted you that perspective of appreciating how you look? I'm curious to maybe what that was exactly.
The pre-colonial Filipinos. Yung appreciation of the pre-colonial culture before the coming in of the Spaniards, before the coming in of all the other colonizers. So parang looking at this also, hindi lang siya sa skin color pati yung sa pagiging babae ko, na-appreciate ko rin siya. And I experienced it as very empowering kasi before the coming, pre-colonial Filipinos were yung mga babae during the pre-colonial Philippines, they were strong, they were respected. And that's where I drew empowerment from. So parang, okay. So yun. And I think compared to my Catholic education, parang I always remember like the man embraces the woman. So parang ganon. Parang change in mindset talaga siya. So after when I went out of that whole upbringing, dun ko nakita na yung, okay, like a woman can be whole even without a man.
Yeah.
So, parang yun. So that and also the skin color, it was so empowering for me.
Yeah, that's
yun.
great.
Just realizing how amazing, how beautiful the woman, the Filipina, pre-colonial Filipina woman was. And so parang feeling ko, ako yun. So chinanel ko yung...
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was my experience of being brown.
And then so after getting all that from college and then going back to, I guess, family life, how would you take maybe the teasing after gaining all that?
I also think it helped that I took up psychology and then I understood all of these things. Tapos child psych pa, diba?
Yeah.
Developmental psych pa. So parang, okay, iba talaga yung pag-iisip ng mga parents natin, the adults in our lives growing up. And then, yung parang thinking of it from a child's perspective, baka hindi nila naintindihan na na-hurt din ako doon sa mga sinasabi nila. Or if you're hurt, di ba parang cute siya? Parang, I mean, like, this is weird, pero some adults think that it's cute when a child cries or when a child makes tampo or something like that. So parang yun lang. I don't hate my uncles and my other relatives for that. It's just that, I wish we could stop doing it.
Yeah.
And then now that I'm like me, I can sort of like joke also with them. Hey, that's not nice. Let's not call our because I have nephews and nieces na and younger cousins. Tapos parang sometimes the adults would again call names. Tapos sabi ko, parang that's not very nice kasi yun yung iisipin nila kung ano sila. So I kind of explain the looking glass self.
Yeah.
In a very lay person's perspective. So yeah, that's how I try to create some changes that are not normalize teasing among children by the adults because it's cute or they don't really see the harmful effects that it could have on the child.
Yeah.
So, yun.
Okay. Oh, I had to ask then, are your parents dark-skinned then or?
Yes. My father is dark-skinned. My mom is fair-skinned. So yun, parang I got my dad's genes, I guess. So parang yun yung joke namin na parang, kasi nagmana kasi ako sa'yo. Parang gano'n.
Yeah, because I'm the same way in my family. I think the fair-skinned gene went to everyone else except me. So I'm the black sheep in the family. But
the literal.
Yeah, I'm the literal black sheep. But it's fine.
Okay.
It's fine. I don't.
Yes,
I didn't
yes.
get as teased as much by the family. Actually, don't think I've experienced. Yeah, this mainly from school.
Friends.
Yeah, friends, my peers.
Peers. Mm-mm. I think, inisip ko nga, parang, tinanong ko nga sa mommy ko na, Ma, was I a bully, like as a child? Because I don't remember being bullied.
Maybe
So
that's
baka
why
ako
then.
yung bully.
Yeah.
Tapos sabi niya, hindi ka naman bully. But you asserted yourself.
Yeah.
Or I would cry and I would sumbong to my mama na,
Oh, no.
inaway nila
Okay.
ako. So, I think that was a protective factor.
Yeah.
Like my mom is a housewife, so parang she was always there. I think that also helped. Kasi every after pag dismissal time na, nandun yung nanay namin sa school, and then we would wait together for our papa to pick us up. So she was there. So I think her presence was a protective factor
Yeah.
that I did not get bullied because baka matatakot yung mga other classmates na ibubully ako. Pero yeah, I don't remember being bullied. So that was my experience.
I like that part where in college you had your first heartbreak. It sounds like a plot of a romantic
No, it was
comedy
high
or something.
school.
Oh, high school.
It was
Yeah.
high school,
Oh my
late high
gosh,
school.
late
That
high
was with
school.
my best friend. So my crush liked my best friend and not me. It was
Yeah.
pretty interesting. Yeah.
And that's great how, I don't know, did getting very high grades in high school help in you ending up in UP Cebu where you learned about that or had that history class and then all that?
Oh yeah, it did definitely because I think when I became the top one, parang like one of my best friends who I consider to be very very smart, number 2 lang siya. So parang ako parang wait. So
Yeah.
so may potential pala ako maging matalino. So bakit ko siya hindi tinap dati pa? So parang yun yung inisip ko. And so I finally found that thing that I'm good at.
Yeah.
Because even in swimming, I wasn't very good in swimming. I was just average. So many things I tried, I realized I'm just average. But then this one, I have a potential to be top 1. So parang okay, sige. So I think I graduated only number 6. And okay lang sa akin yun. Kasi parang feeling ko, like, I don't deserve that top 1 spot. It should go to my best friend. Kasi siya yung tingin ko, yung matalino talaga. But anyway, so yun. And then that's how I ended up in UP. And this whole being in UP, I think that was also a huge thing because it was different from how I was, like, my upbringing ever since. I was very sheltered, ganon, in all aspects of life. And when I got to UP, parang, whoa.
Yeah.
Medyo na-culture shock ako ng konti in the beginning. But then that's also when I started finding out who I really am apart from what I inherited from my parents, yung mga mindset, like the values, the belief systems that I inherited from my parents. And coming here to Manila in 2012, living by myself, mas lalo siyang na fine-tune.
Yeah.
Tapos, being able to survive on my own, I think that also added to my empowerment, na parang, kaya ko naman pala. Parang ganun na feeling.
How old were you when you moved here for college?
I moved here for grad school, for my PhD. So I was 23. I was 23 when I moved here. My parents were against it. Kasi nga, medyo sheltered, hindi kami mayaman, pero super sheltered. Sheltered kaming lumaki. And we did not feel na mahirap kami. Although, parang my parents made sure that we did not feel that growing up. And then they tried their best. So, nung nag-decide akong magpunta dito, they were against it. And I was like, no, I have to go. Because there's no, parang they were asking, why can't you just do your PhD here in Cebu? And then I said, because I want to do it in UP Diliman, and there's no UP Diliman in Cebu. So I moved here, and then I told them, na I'm not gonna ask anything from you. So I just need your support. Financially, like, I will try to do it on my own. So, and that's what I did. And it was hard. It was really hard.
Yeah.
But I think that also added to the whole empowerment.
Yeah.
And that feeling na, I can do things even without my parents physically, financially supporting me. Kaya naman pala. Mahirap siya nung una, pero kaya naman.
Yeah, it sounds like that big move you made. And there again, asserting yourself even to your parents.
Uh-oh.
Like was really huge. I guess jumping off
Yes.
the deep end and then learning all about empowerment and gaining all those strengths that you now have with you. And
Mm-hmm.
wait, one thing I wanted to ask before moving on
Yes,
to your
yes.
experience in the academe.
Sure.
Did you ever get to pick up surfing? Because I saw in this one other interview you did how many years ago now you mentioned you've always wanted to try surfing.
Oh yes, I did. I did.
Nice.
I think after college. So after college, I worked for 2 years. I graduated 2009, and I moved here 2012. So 9, 10, 11. So yeah, that time
Mhm.
I took up SPED.
Yeah.
So I took a master's in SPED at that time, and because Siargao is just 40 minutes
Oh wow. Okay.
away from
Wow.
Cebu. Yeah, so that's where I first learned how to surf. And that was a thing that I shared with my sister. So my sister at that time was still in college, and then I would save up, and during her breaks, like summer break, we'd spend 1 week in
Wow. Okay.
Siargao. We'd rent a kubo. So I also found a friend there. So he has a resort. At that time,
Uh-huh.
he was still building the resort. But now he
Yeah.
has a resort there. And at that time, nagre-rent lang kami ng kubo
Yeah.
beside his resort kasi hindi pa siya na
Yeah.
build. Yeah, and we'd rent that kubo, and then we people there are so friendly during this time. I haven't been there since 2012.
Mhm.
So, yeah. Pero hindi, short-lived lang siya. Like, just during those times
Yeah.
na medyo accessible pa yung Siargao.
Yeah.
Nakapunta ako ng La Union ngayon. Like, I think last year.
Recently?
Or,
Okay.
yeah, last year. But I lost the skills na.
Oh,
Parang,
no. Okay.
hindi siya. Yeah, but it was fun. It was fun. And it's not as easy to get to beaches here in Manila.
Yeah.
Especially I don't have a car.
Yeah.
So it has to be like a planned thing with
Yeah, the
friends. Parang it's so hindi siya pwedeng yung on a whim, okay, I want to go to Siargao, let's book tickets. Mabilis lang yan. Hindi masyadong mahal yung tickets from Cebu to Siargao kasi malapit lang siya. So yun. So that's something that I really miss. Yeah, but it was so fun.
Yeah, I had the same experience. I think I fell in love with it when I first went to La Union.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's also one of those places where you just see people flaunting their tans, where you don't really get that much over here in the city. So it is a nice change of pace.
Yes, true.
So yeah, anyways, just had to ask about that. I wanted to know. Okay, so yeah, about bullying. I have this belief about bullying being a part of, or it's something you can take out of the experience of the youth, of dark-skinned Filipino youth as they're growing up. Are the effects of that bullying and teasing in one's childhood or adolescence as severe as we think or as mild as we think?
So teasing and bullying, parang it's not just the dark-skinned folks that gets teased and bullied. Usually these happen. Kanina parang I said that my family, my relatives tease me. So usually yung teasing, it's playful, it's supposed to be fun, but it becomes problematic when it's misinterpreted by the one that's being laughed at, right? And it becomes painful, and it could have effects on the self-esteem, also how you see yourself, and it may even lead to body image, physical appearance issues, parang ganon. So it's the same with bullying, although bullying it's different from teasing. Kasi yung teasing pwedeng ang intention niya is just really to have fun, to be playful. The bullying is really intended to hurt. So there's the intention to hurt, and then there's also persistence of the behavior. So parang hindi lang siya one time, parang paulit-ulit siya. And more importantly, there's an imbalance in power. So parang the bully wants to hurt the victim, and usually they choose a victim that's weaker than them. So pwede physical, social status na weaker, or financially. So iba-ibang klase.
Yeah.
And it can also come in different forms. Yung name calling, that can be a verbal bullying, or pwede din many different forms of bullying. There's physical, there's verbal, there's also relational. eto yung mas subtle, mga mas mean girls na kind of bullying.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, you're gonna smile and be nicey-nicey, but then parang you're very manipulative pala, and then the goal is to ruin the victim's social status or reputation so that they will be excluded. And then there's also the prejudicial bullying. So people with different skin color, or it could be religious bullying also, or yung LGBTQ bullying. So if you're different, that's when you become a target. And I think this whole bullying because we're brown, maybe it comes from, parang it's rooted in this racial thing, that white is better, white is nicer, white is prettier. So because you're not white, you're brown, you're black, or what other skin color. So that's why you get bullied. So parang I think among all the different types of bullying, parang mapupunta siya dun sa racial bullying and maybe even verbal bullying. And there's also cyberbullying now that we have this whole virtual world with us. So ang effect niya, I think the effect of teasing and bullying can vary. We can think of it as a continuum. So merong mild, meron ding severe. And this varies depending on the risk and protective factors that the child or the person has. So ano yung example nito? For example, personality. So there are people who are more sensitive than others. There's also the presence of social support. I think I mentioned earlier na parang feeling ko hindi ako binuli kasi nandun yung nanay ko.
Your mom.
And then, pwede din kasing ma-build up na yung self-confidence ng child. So, magkakaroon siya ng stable na self-concept, self-confidence, so that even if the child gets bullied, gets teased, parang nakaka-cope siya or naturuan siya ng mga coping skills to make the child more resilient. So yun. Yung mga risk factors, walang support, tapos walang skills, walang coping skills, healthy coping skills, cannot manage their own emotions. So pwedeng ganon. So hindi siya bullying leads to this. Although like madaming negative effects yung bullying, like childhood bullying could lead to possible adolescent internalizing and externalizing behavior. So, pwede yung anxiety, depressive symptoms, pwede yung effect, pwede din externalizing behaviors like substance abuse later on. What else? Delinquent behavior, aggressive behavior. So, pwedeng yung magiging mas more severe effects na siya.
Yeah. I think what I find most scary about the whole bullying in one's childhood and adolescence is that for most of the time, I don't think the children know how to cope with being bullied, and it's not something they have an overhead perspective on, because it's just something that happens to them in their everyday lives, and then for them it's, I don't know, they don't see it as a phenomena because it's exactly what they're living.
Yes. Yeah, you're right. Ganun talaga siya. Parang ang hirap din to bring yourself out of the picture and look at it na external. Because unang-una, children's minds are not yet as capable compared to us to do that zooming out and look into the bigger picture. So siguro what can be helpful would be to strengthen the child, parang make the child more resilient, teach the child skills, also help build the self-confidence of the child by helping the child identify areas in their lives that they're good at and that can be a source of esteem, while at the same time, ini-enrich itong bata, and at the same time also trying to change the environment or the context that they're in. So this one takes more actually, I think both take time and effort. Pero this one kasi it's more systemic, yung changing society, make it more tolerant and accepting, even appreciative of differences. Because I think that all of this is rooted in the whole, you're different from me.
Yeah.
And that causes the teasing, the bullying. So if we can somehow create an environment that's more tolerant of these differences, then it might not be as harsh towards the child.
Mhm.
But at the same time, we're also trying to fortify the child because we know that this environment is quite harsh. And so the child needs to be able to cope with this environment while we're trying to change it.
Yeah.
So does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. You have to.
Uh-uh.
I think the best way to find a cure or find a solution for it is to, for you to fortify both fronts. And in my experience, I think I'd like to share because
Okay.
I grew up in a Filipino Chinese school here. So, well, as my mom would put it, she could spot me from a mile away since it is easy for someone to see na, oh, there's this one brown kid amongst
You
the
stood up
a
like a
seat.
sore
Yeah.
thumb.
Yeah. And then the way I'd be bullied, I think it would be mostly the name calling. In all boys schools, I don't think we have much of yung social bullying, like in the Mean Girls example.
Uh-huh. So it's really more direct.
Yeah, more
bullying.
direct and not naman flavorless, yung usual name calling. But yeah, pretty much in your face, the usual all boys school thing. And as a kid, I like to think I was very patient with people calling me names. So for the longest time, I wouldn't be doing anything. I wouldn't be retaliating.
But how did you feel?
Oh, it felt horrible. Like, yeah, keeping all those in. I think that was my coping mechanism of just keeping it all inside and then hoping for it to dissipate away into nothing. But it turns out there was a breaking point, and there several times it was broken by my peers, even if they didn't mean to be bullying, mean to be hurting me, which is sad. And then there would be sometimes I would physically retaliate, and yeah, I didn't feel good about that at all.
You retaliating?
Yeah,
Or,
retaliating.
okay.
Even if for a brief moment I felt like, oh, finally
You were justified.
yeah, like finally I'll have the last laugh because yeah.
Okay.
So that's my background.
Okay, so it did not feel good, like keeping it in and even retaliating.
Yes, because contrary to what I believed at that time, even if you try to keep all those feelings inside, that's not for me. It's not a healthy way to manage those feelings. Even if you tell yourself, okay, this doesn't mean anything, I'll just brush it off. It's fine. I'll just walk away, not take anything from it. Yeah, yeah, I had to learn that the hard way.
And then how old were you?
Ooh, I think early teens.
Okay.
That very impressionable stage in my life.
Yes, yeah. So parang ang hirap nun. And then you were just keeping it all in.
Yeah.
How old are you now, if you don't mind me asking?
26.
Ayun. So if your 26-year-old self could tell the early teenager, like the 13-year-old you something,
Yeah.
to help you cope with that, what would you tell your 13-year-old self?
That I'm not entirely sure because I think the best way now, or being an adult-ish now, would be just to really confront the people and tell them na, oh, hey, what you called me was kind of crossing the line and it hurt my feelings. And in the context of me being a 13-year-old in an all-boys school, I don't think that would be something I would be able to do.
Yeah.
Sometimes the solutions for dealing with bullying are inaccessible in that context. And that's
Totoo.
sad.
And then you felt bad that you were different, like in that school, right? So parang,
Oh, yeah,
was there a
yeah.
feeling of being an outgroup in that context because you were different?
Not as much as I think because there were also a
Okay.
handful of other darker skinned students.
Okay.
So I wasn't I was still part of the minority.
Okay. Tapos parang hirap, di ba? Parang ngayon, as an adult, you can say, sana pinaglaban mo na lang yung
Yeah.
sarili mo. Sana inassert mo na lang yung sarili mo na, hey, that's not nice. Stop that. Parang
Yeah.
ganon. Pero, when you think about it, would a 13-year-old be able to say that when the 13-year-old is self-conscious, wants to please people,
Yeah.
wants to be part of the group. So
Yeah.
parang gagawin ng 13-year-old kung ano yung tingin niya, mas mag-increase ng likelihood na matatanggap siya ng peers niya, ganon. So maybe at that time, that meant being quiet and just hoping na sana you will stop. Parang
Yeah.
ganon. So it is really a problem. And yun, yung yung nasabi ko kanina na fortifying the child and at the same time also trying to change the environment could be possible interventions we could do
Yeah.
to lessen that in the future. Pero parang feeling ko, inevitable siya.
Yeah, it's
Like
inevitable
at this,
now.
yeah, it's inevitable. That's why if I were to have children, I would probably like fortify my
Yeah,
child, fortify my child and prepare my child. It's gonna be a rough world out there, but at the same time, not also parang terrorize na matatakot na siyang lumabas into the real world.
Yeah.
So parang just preparing the child. It's gonna be harsh, but then you can do it. And we got your back. Parang ganung feeling. Yeah, it would be nice if ganon.
Yeah, I think I got that. I got somewhat that support from my parents, but it doesn't have, it wasn't actually something I brought up with them because, and yeah, this tangent of being aware that you don't look like everyone else, and it's an issue of beauty standards, and then that whole interaction with gender and how if coming from a boy that would be, well, you'd still think, oh, that's pretty weird. Maybe just don't mind it. I mean, what's it to you now you look different or not attractive? You're a guy, so just whatever. It's whatever. Yeah, but then that's I don't know, a whole other thing to talk about.
It's good that you brought up gender because I think between the girls and boys, the literature would support that the girls have it harder compared to the boys, especially when it comes to physical appearance, beauty. Pero it doesn't mean na just because it's not something that boys should be thinking about or dealing with doesn't mean na hindi ka rin na-affect if you're a boy. So, I mean, girls have it harder. Their self-esteem are more affected. And even later, mental health issues like anxiety and depressive symptoms, more girls display this and is correlated with bullying because of physical appearance or teasing because of physical appearance. And I don't know if you remember in your Dev Psych class, but usually during adolescence, yung self-esteem ng mga females, they go down. So parang boys and girls in childhood, they would have more or less comparable self-esteem levels. And then once they hit puberty, teenage boys' self-esteem would usually increase, and that will continue to increase in young adulthood. Whereas the females, once they hit adolescence, it would go down. So dito nagsistart yung mga body image issues ng mga babae kasi like our bodies go through changes, and yun, parang in our society also, it's very, you need to look pretty, you have to filter your pictures before posting them, and what does that tell us about how we naturally are? Like, you're not beautiful enough to post your picture as it is. You need to filter it, you need to edit it, you need to edit out your pimples and all the other blemishes. So parang yon, and then it continues to go down. And the only time that the self-esteem of the males and females will be comparable again will be in old age. So you see like how that is quite problematic because like comparable, and then males would go up and females would go down starting puberty, and then it will continue like the males kasi one of the sources of their self-esteem is their physical strength. So when that starts to decline, so that's going to be in midlife pa. So that's the time that it starts to go down. And then yung mga females naman, once they hit midlife, that's when they start to assert themselves. Kasi parang all these years of experience. So parang dun humuhugot din ng empowerment yung mga babae, kaya umi-increase yung kanilang self-esteem. And finally, in old age, mag-meet sila ulit sa mga males na self-esteem. So, yeah, I find that interesting. And at the same time, I would also like to highlight that even if physical appearance is not really a main issue ng mga males, it can still be an issue. And if you feel bad because people think you're ugly or, not white enough, not handsome enough, it's okay to feel bad too.
Yeah, I had to bring that up because, again, it's something, if I were to tell myself back then, na, okay, the solution is this. For me, as a
Mm-mm.
13-year-old, it would still seem inaccessible and something beyond my imagination to do because,
Yes.
yeah, that whole interaction with societal norms and the
Mm-mm.
expectations of a male growing up. So yeah, it's messy. It's messy.
Parang just imagine your 13-year-old self, tapos sasabihin mo sa adult around you na, oh, I'm teased because I'm not pogi. Parang,
Yeah,
how would they respond to
yeah,
you
yeah,
kaya? Parang,
exactly.
you would also think about that. And then parang you would expect, oh, they'll probably just tell me, oh, just,
Mm-hmm.
don't be such a wuss, just man up.
Yeah, man
The
up, exactly.
usual,
Yeah, the usual.
really.
Yeah,
Yeah, the usual, which just because it's the usual doesn't mean it's like the best thing to say in
yeah,
this situation. So, yeah, mahirap talaga i-change yung norms, mahirap i-change yung society, but not impossible. And so, while we are in the process of changing this, we need to fortify the children,
yeah.
we need to support them, because that will also help them change the environment, because these children will grow up to be adults. And if they started early, parang we change the way they think, they can also probably, if they choose to have children in the future, they can raise them in a way that's more egalitarian and hindi masyadong stereotypical.
Mm-hmm.
Then baka that can also change their generation. So, pero it's a very long shot.
Yeah.
It's a very long process. And it's systemic too.
Yeah, so it's not at all easy as it sounds. And
Mm-mm.
yeah, hopefully things like this project are a step away in
Yes.
the right direction.
Yes, definitely. Especially since like a lot of the younger folks, they are into social
Mm-hmm.
media. So having parang in a way you could also change the way people think because
Mm-hmm.
of your presence. The Moreno Morena collective or project, its presence can also be a conversation starter,
Yeah.
right? And something that people will also think about now nga parang bakit nga ba yung maputi lang yung iniisip natin na maganda? Bakit hindi yung brown?
Mhm.
Brown naman talaga yung Pilipino, di
Yeah.
ba? Bakit? So,
Yeah,
parang
exactly.
just making or having an avenue for teenagers or preteens to ask that question is already a big step. So, yeah, thank you for doing this.
Yeah, of course. I wanted to ask then about, because you touched
Mm.
on some points of unlearning these detrimental behaviors and attitudes, and also ways for kids or even adults to get themselves out of that low self-esteem or the effects of
Mm-mm.
all the bullying. Yeah, I think for one significant turning point that happened recently where related to unlearning these things was, I mentioned in the previous episode when I recorded that when Nickelodeon announced the new Blue's Clues guy, who's a very good-looking, very Filipino-looking, and brown-skinned dude.
Really?
Yeah, you should look him up. I think you'll.
What's his name?
His name
Or
is
just
Josh.
Blue's Clues?
Yeah, Blue's Clues new guy.
Josh. Okay. Oh.
Yeah.
Very Pinoy. And is he really Pinoy? The
Yeah,
family
he
name
is.
is De La Cruz.
He is
Okay.
super. And he's a theater actor. He's very
Wow.
ripped. He can sing and dance and all that.
Oh wow. I think this is huge.
Yeah, and then so yeah, when I saw that whole news piece about him being selected as the new Blues Clues guy, I think it did a lot for my self-esteem because it was the first time I saw someone on such a global scale who looked like me. And I don't think I got any of that kind of stimulus growing up, especially in this age of social media where usually it's Caucasian people on my
Yes.
Instagram feed and all that. And
Yes.
I wish there was more representation of people who looked like me in that
Yes.
sense. And yeah, when it comes to unlearning detrimental behaviors and fortifying both the child and the environment, I can imagine it's very difficult for this generation of kids' parents to help fortify that environment, since the current youth today are living so much online, and maybe it alienates a lot of the adults in their lives, so they can't really make those interventions and yeah, to help fortify the kids in that way.
Totoo. But it's good that ngayon, now that, racial issues, gender issues are starting to be talked about. So parang it also translates to the representation in media, 'di ba? Parang there are a lot of shows back in the 90s that I enjoyed.
Mm-hmm.
But then when I look, like for example, Friends,
Yes, yes,
diba?
yes.
Who a lot of people like Friends. But then when I rewatch it, there are some lines that seem like, oh, it's
Yeah,
kind of
that's
awkward. Or like the movies, yung mga, I like 90s rom-coms,
Mhm.
yung mga ganung movies. Tapos when I watch them again, now as an adult, parang that's kind of off,
Yeah.
or that's kind of
It
sexist,
didn't
or
age
that's
well.
not very nice.
Yeah.
So now we're actually able to see these things, and I think naman yung media, they're also trying to. But I mentioned earlier that the societal change has to be systemic.
Mm-hmm.
So from the policies, from what we see in media, it has to be there. So parang I think there are efforts to have more representation,
Mm-hmm.
not lang in terms of how you look like, but even like gender. For
Mhm.
example, before there are certain careers or like jobs na mas panglalaki.
Yeah.
So compared to now, and then now they're trying to put more, for example, like ano ba yung typically male na mga jobs, like being an astronaut,
Mhm.
engineer, those things, drivers. So now, nilalagyan na din ng mga females.
Yeah.
Para the children, when they grow up or as they grow up, they also see that, oh, yung in-express mo kanina na, oh, that is someone who looks like me.
Yeah.
So parang that also leads to self-esteem and also maybe more acceptance
Yeah.
sa sarili. Pero yun nga, the point you raised was that it can be difficult for the parents
Mhm.
because hindi ganon ka engaged virtually yung mga magulang. So maybe that's an adjustment that they can do. Try to speak the children's language and be interested in the things that the children are interested in. It takes a lot of effort,
Yeah.
but I think the benefits that you can reap from it will also be good.
Yeah.
Pero it's effortful nga for the parents. For very young children, they can regulate
Mhm.
up to a certain point, diba? The parents still have control kung ano yung papanoorin nila, yung mga ganon. Pero it's, as these children grow older, of course, they're going to assert their autonomy and independence.
Yeah.
So, doon na medyo mahirap. And our hope is that by that time, medyo na-fortify na yung mga kids. Kasi mas lesser na yung control ng parents noon, diba? So, it's good to start them young.
Yeah.
So while the parents still have certain control over what kind of media their children will consume, what kind of environment the children can be engaged in, habang maaga pa, so doon na is-start yung pag-fortify para during the time they reach adolescence and assert their independence, hopefully, strong na yung core nila. Well, that's an ideal world.
Yeah. The ideal world.
That's
yeah.
an ideal world. That's your utopia, maybe. But yun, we just try to do the best we can.
Mhm.
It's a very generic statement because it's the best. Also depend like how we will operationally define best will
Mhm.
also depend on the specific situation that the child is in.
Yeah.
Right. So yun, it's not impossible, but it is hard. It takes a lot of
Takes
effort.
a lot of effort.
Collective effort.
Mhm. I get a couple times when people ask me, or when I do interviews for Moreno Morena,
Mhm.
sometimes people will ask me, what's one way you could prescribe to help people now appreciate their own skin color?
Mhm.
And then something I would always say is to follow at least one or two people who look like you on social media. I mean, it won't hurt na you see yourself on screen every now and again amidst the whole timeline of white people, white good-looking people. Because small things like that. Are there any specific ways or things you could prescribe to people if they want to maybe pick up their self-esteem about their looks?
Their looks talaga, or pick up their self-esteem in general.
I think in general, yeah. Let's go for in general.
Parang, I think one of the ways to do that is to be good in many other things.
Mm-hmm.
Like not to put all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah.
So you can't just put it in your physical appearance basket. You put it in other areas. Like for example, you're a very competent social person.
Yeah.
So there are people who are naturally very approachable and charming. They have charisma. So parang if that's your strength, even if if you don't feel physically attractive, but you can still be attractive. Parang I feel kasi it's in the eye of the beholder,
Mhm.
the whole concept of beauty. And one of the ways that you can feel beautiful is if you actually like what you're doing.
Yeah.
So I think one of the specific and very tangible ways, parang tangible recommendation I could give is to find something that you're good at.
Mhm.
And then that can be your source of self-esteem. Or find many things that you can be good at. Para hindi lang siya dun sa physical appearance.
Mhm.
Because if it's validation from others that you need, that's kind of hard, di ba?
Yeah.
Because we can't force people to say, uy, maganda naman ako, di ba? Para they would be
Yeah.
like, yeah, sure. So that's hard if we constantly seek external validation. It's good to have external validation every so often, but if possible, let's find something that comes from within.
Yeah.
So experiencing joy because you enjoy something you do. And you don't even need to be good at it. You just need to be intrinsically happy that you're doing
Yeah.
it kasi gusto mo siya, na-enjoy mo siya. So, pwede yun. Follow other people who look like you. And also, I guess being with people who appreciate you for who you are, despite not looking the way you wanna look.
Yeah.
I think that's really good. So find your tribe. Find
Yeah,
the
find your
tribe that is supportive of you, of who you are right now, not of your potential, not of what you were, but like who you are right now. For difficult mga clinical cases na talaga, well, seeing a therapist can be one. CBT, but yung cognitive behavioral therapy, that can help you manage your automatic thoughts na, oh, I'm ugly, I'm like this, like that, I'm unworthy because I'm not white. So all these problematic thoughts, you can be taught certain strategies to catch yourself when you have those thoughts, and then challenge those thoughts, and then cognitively reframe those thoughts. So pwedeng ganun. But that's for
more severe
cases. Or actually, we can do that to ourselves. For example, you're scanning your news feed and you see a lot of really clear-skinned people, and then you feel, oh, fudge, I'm ugly. And so, oh, that's an automatic thought. So am I really ugly? So you challenge your thought, and then you reframe. Oh, they're probably using like a lot of filters or Photoshop their photo. Or you can say, but like this is my natural beauty. This is like I'm healthy. I have all my body parts complete. I'm still breathing. So parang yon. Yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. That's similar to what one other guest said, si Trish. She mentioned how you should be aware of people's context, especially the people you follow on Instagram or social media na, okay, maybe they look a certain way because that's their career, that's they're paid to look like that, that's their whole thing. And then you have to understand where you're coming from then. You have to be realistic. You have to have that zoomed out perspective again.
Yeah. Oh, and I just wanted to add that one of the things that but I'm trying to, like, as a brown-skinned woman who struggled with her own brownness, like appreciating her own brownness growing up. I think one of the things that also, parang I receive external validation.
Yeah.
Kahit na tinatry natin, di ba, na internal validation, pero nakaka-receive din ako ng external validation. That was when I went to a predominantly white country to study. So I went to a summer school and I stood out like a sore thumb because I was brown. But then people noticed me for that in very positive ways.
Yeah.
So, parang, oh, I never got this kind of attention back in the Philippines, but maganda pala ako. So, parang nakatulong siya na parang, oh, so I'm pretty in other people's eyes. So, I just need to find those eyes that find me pretty. So, parang, yun yung bottom line ng learning ko na yun. Na parang, oh, okay, I never got this kind of attention from people, like random people.
Yeah.
So I was walking sa street, tapos random people just told me,
okay.
hi, you're so beautiful. Parang, is this normal? Parang I never got like this kind of attention in the Philippines. But maybe that's also like a cultural thing.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
in that culture, they're also more vocal compared to Philippines. Di ba kapag naglalakad ka sa daan, tapos may magsasabi sa'yo, uy, ang ganda mo, parang bastos.
Yeah.
Parang ganun din naman yung ating response to that, right?
Yeah.
So there's also the context.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess another would be if you really want external validation for your beauty, then you could find the eyes that would find you beautiful. Kasi it's not like we're not everyone's cup of tea. Like for one person, you could be very attractive. For another person, so ka lang. For another person, ang pangit mo. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Find the eyes that would find you beautiful for
great.
what you are.
I think I can make that one of the quotes when I post this episode. That sounds like a really great, something that could go on a wall, maybe.
Although, like, parang they would always say that superficial yung physical beauty, but I can understand that some people want that kind of external validation. It can be superficial, but it's also very real.
Yeah.
Like this desire to be desired, it's real and it's okay. So if it's something that is important to you, how you look like, how you want to be perceived, then look for the perceiver who will think that you are beautiful.
Yeah, for me, that's a very smart and yet so simple and that's so easily overlooked. I think lots of people, it would be worth lots of people hearing that. I think we can wrap up with, you touched on some ideal future where we could fortify both the child and the environment. And it's a very long process. You mentioned how that whole systemic, like it's a whole systemic change and there's no one way to start or there's no easy steps towards it.
You just have to start, like what you're doing right now. So this is one small step, but it is a step nonetheless.
And if you could create that perfect environment where the children are always equipped to handle whatever teasing or bullying or criticism that would negatively affect them, would you make that perfect environment? Or is there any merit to having a child experience teasing and bullying in a negative way? Like, does it give them the opportunity to learn coping mechanisms that would help them later on? Or is it all negative effects that you get from bullying and teasing?
If I had a choice, like if I had children, I wouldn't want them to go through that kind of pain, right?
Yeah.
But that's not realistic. The reality is people will always, like, pain is inevitable. It's part of life.
Yeah.
And so what I would want is not to create a sterile environment because that's not very realistic. What I can create or what I would want to build would be the child's self-esteem, like a strong core, like a strong sense of self. And equip the child with healthy coping strategies so that when these hardships come, alam niya kung paano mag-cope.
Yeah.
Tsaka tuturuan ko rin kung paano mag-seek help. Like it's okay to ask for help. It's okay na nahihirapan ka because a part of the pain and the suffering maybe comes from that feeling of loneliness that I'm alone in this struggle. But then when you put it out there, like you coming up with this Moreno Morena project, it gives other people who are probably suffering in silence and in secret, like that idea na, oh, I'm not the only one experiencing this. I'm not the only one feeling sad or feeling really bothered because I'm brown or because there's something wrong with me or I think there's something wrong with me, blah, blah, blah. So it allows somewhat, parang it validates the person for feeling down because they were teased because of how they look. Parang yun. Parang it's more, I wouldn't say that it's impossible. Parang it's close to impossible to live in a sterilized world na hindi ka talaga ma-hurt kasi we have no control over what other people will do.
Yeah.
And people come from different backgrounds. So, hindi din natin alam bakit yung mga bullies nambubully. Malay natin, nabully din sila dati, or they did not have anyone to guide them and tell them that this is bad, or maybe they have unhealthy ways of coping, and part of it is to bully a weaker victim. So what I'm trying to say is that if we can help each child cope and deal with all these pain that they're going through, maybe wala nang mabubuli. Hopefully, wala nang mabubuli kasi ma-address na yung issues ng bully, kung bakit siya naging bully. And then when they grow up, they also become parents. And if they're not going to be parents, then adults who can also help shape and strengthen the next generation. So I think I mentioned also kanina na the effects of bullying and teasing can be thought of as like a continuum. So
Yeah.
pwedeng merong positive effects, meron ding extremely negative effects. And these factors around the child that interacts to determine ano yung magiging effect sa kanya. Kung magiging positive ba, magiging negative ba. So it also is very helpful to have an adult who will guide the child, help the child cognitively reframe the difficulties that they're going through para instead of experiencing it as super negative, they are also able to hugot some meaning and rechannel their negative experience into something that's more positive. Just like
Yeah.
what you're doing. You can advocate for something that you experience negatively, tapos you want to change that, so you can create an advocacy group or parang ganon.
Yeah.
So I guess the role of the adults is not just to create a safer space, a space that's more tolerant and appreciative of differences, but also be there to guide while the reshaping is ongoing and to fortify the child and then guide them also.
Yeah, I was thinking now how that's so much like when you asked me to imagine what I would say to my 13-year-old self. I think being the adults we are now with our perspective on the whole issue, the entire issue of bullying and being brown and our brownness and carrying that with us all throughout growing up. I think, yeah, short way to say it would be our adult selves to our child selves to the
Yeah.
youth of today,
Yes.
if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. And if you, as an adult, you have issues, you can also try to appease the child within you.
Yeah.
Like during those moments of weakness, na you feel like, oh shit, I'm ugly or something like that, you could help. Since we are capable now of like cognitively reframing, we can also like do that to ourselves. And if we can't, then there are people who are trained to help us go through that journey. So magpa-counseling ka kung ganun,
Yeah.
kung hindi mo talaga kaya na ikaw lang. Kasi I also find that these patterns, like yung sa family ko, di ba I said like I was teased by
Yeah.
my uncles, and it was probably because they were teased by their own parents, my grandparents, my great grandfather. Like I would hear stories of my uncle telling us about their lolo, so that's my great grandfather, and how they used to be teased, and I'm not sure if they're aware of it, but they're kind of repeating it.
Yeah.
We can somehow perpetuate the pain that we went through, maybe unconsciously,
Yeah.
with the people that we're dealing with right now. So another way to do that would be to also make peace with our own pain and our own scars. And hopefully, by doing so, we will not repeat that process with the people that we will be caring for, with the younger people that we will be caring for, whether it's our own children, our nibblings, or our students, or mentees, or kung anumang mga younger generation that we are trying to guide.
That's a really nice place to end things on. I really hope lots of people get to hear this because it was very insightful, and yeah, with your expertise in developmental psych. And yeah, there are also a ton of other questions I'd like to ask you about
Sure.
if this has any relation with SPED and that whole thing, but I don't know. I don't want to keep you any longer, Doctora. So
maybe we can have another conversation about that another day. So you can always reach out.
Yeah, but for now, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me about this whole thing.
Yes, it's my pleasure, and I hope that you will have the same enthusiasm that you had in 2016 to keep on doing what you're doing, because it's a step to have these conversations, to normalize talking about awkward things like this, and to have that space to just talk about it, and hopefully more people can, or this channel can reach more people, so that they can also, like, this is your way of contributing to changing that whole society thing. It's your own way. So yeah, thank you for doing this also, and may you never get tired.
Yes, hopefully I won't. And it's really my pleasure to be doing my part to help undo all these things. that have affected me growing up. And before we end, is there anything you want to plug? Do you want people to follow you anywhere, or I don't know,
No.
anything that comes to mind?
No, I'm good. Just I hope that you continue doing this.
Thank you so much again, Doctora. I hope to talk to you again about everything and anything developmental
Yes.
psych and being brown.
Mm-hmm. So it was a pleasure to be here. I don't think I've had the opportunity to share my story of being brown in a very public capacity.
Yeah.
And I told you that I feel a little bit self conscious doing these things, but on a personal level, I am grateful because I'm able to talk about this. I haven't had the space to talk about this, and it's actually something that's also close to my heart. Growing up, feeling very insecure about being brown, and then being able to overcome that because of a history class that I found very, very empowering. So I do hope that people will also find their turning points that will help them appreciate themselves more, because wala talagang ibang magmamahal sa atin ng lubos, kundi tayo lang.
Yep.
So, if we don't love ourselves, ang hirap na hingin yon sa other people. Let's just be patient with ourselves, and let's also be more appreciative of what we have and who we are.
Yes,
Cheesy
exactly.
ba? Masyadong cheesy.
No, that's
It
fine.
sounds
That's
a bit
fine.
cheesy, but it does make sense.
Yeah,
a lot
it's
of
true.
sense to
It's
me.
true.
Na parang, okay, like I need to love myself and love all of this, even if that's not what society tells me is lovable.
Yeah.
So, mas lalo kong mamahalin yung sarili ko kasi ang sinasabi ng external, hindi naman yan ganun ka-lovable eh. So, more reason for me to love myself.
Yes,
Yan.
exactly. Yeah, so I'll see you soon,
Yes.
Doctora.
Okay. Thank you, Jero.
Thanks to you. Bye.
Bye-bye.